Is atheism a purely modern concept? Not really, but sort of yes and sort of no. So today, the term atheist is applied to those who deny the existence of God or the gods entirely. But if we went back to the Greco Roman era, what we would find is that the language of atheism was often applied to people who were either irreligious or who denied the traditional gods of the time. Now, that's important because the charge of atheism was often leveled at Christians because Christians were monotheists who denied the existence of all gods except for the one true God. And that charge could be very dangerous. Here's an example. Polycarp was an early church figure who would not recognize those Greco-Roman gods, and he also would not recognize the divinity of the emperor. And as a result, he was charged with atheism, and then he was killed. So the funny thing is, in that time period, the New Testament era, maybe, but just beyond it, atheism was a term that was applied to Christians. Very different from today. But if we go back to the Old Testament period, we find what's probably practical atheism. So, for example, Psalm 14:1 says, "The fool says in his heart there is no God." That probably is not a denial of the existence of God, but rather it's a stance where the person who says that, the fool, does not think that God cares about the way in which that person lives, or that God's indifferent to the way in which humans conduct themselves. So we call that practical atheism. And that's the type of atheism that kind of characterizes passages like Psalm 14:1 in the Old Testament. So actually, coming back to today, there really are two types of atheism relevant in our culture. The first is the traditional type of atheism that we're used to in the modern period, namely the denial of God's existence. But there's a second type that's more concerning. It's the type of atheism where a person lives as if God is unconcerned and uninvolved in life. And here's the important bit. That second type of atheism, the practical atheism, can include Christians who recognize that God exists but then fail to live out that belief. That's the sort of atheism that's rooted in bad theology, if it's rooted in theology at all. And it's a problem that must be corrected for those who are Christian. Here's a summary of this general overview. The language of atheism has been used for a long time, but in different ways. It has been used to describe one who denies the existence of God or the gods, that is, non-Christians. It has been used as a label for those who were irreligious or who denied the existence of major gods of the time, a charge leveled at Christians. And it has been used to describe a person who lives as if God is unconcerned and uninvolved in life, and that can include Christians who believe God exists but live as if he does not.